Hello and welcome to this I Ain't Been Shot Mum solo war game. This is a demonstration, again, to show you really, while we're in lockdown, to show you how to play some kind of solo war games while you're killing time, while you're spending time at home. This is a setup that I've put together. This is a lot of my urban factories and remains and various bits and pieces that I've collected over the years, and I've set it up in a Stalingrad style city fight. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play it as an I Ain't Been Shot Mum game. I'm going to take it through, and obviously I'm going to film it and post it on YouTube, because that's what's going to happen with it. But the idea here is the Germans are attacking. This is actually based on a rapid fire scenario. Rapid fire is another Second World War game, but it's a slightly higher level than I Ain't Been Shot Mum. But interestingly, the organisations of the units are almost exactly the same as in I Ain't Been Shot Mum, so you don't really have to do a great deal to change anything. So even though, if you look here, these are individual companies, they're actually made up of 8 or 9 men, which is a section in I Ain't Been Shot Mum. So everything pretty much fits in perfectly well. All you need to do is add a few extra big men here and there. So this guy, for instance. So I've done that. This is a German start line. In the original rapid fire scenario, the idea was to capture the Red Barricades factory. I've kind of added a little bit more to this game, and I've actually added a lot more terrain and scenery than there is in that particular scenario. The idea here being that this is the German advance in early October, trying to push through to the Volga, which is on this back end of the table here, through the factory sections, and the Soviets are going to have to try to stop them with a stop line somewhere in this centre of this field, probably somewhere around the department store here. Because it's a solo war game, I'm taking the Germans as they're an attacker. It's a very simple attack-defence style game. I'm basically going to be attacking. I want to try to get as far down to the bottom edge of the table as possible before the game ends, or before the attack runs out of any kind of momentum. And the Russian is going to be the what we call artificial intelligence player, and they're basically going to be operating, obviously, to try to stop that German advance. So let's just have a quick look at the Germans, and I'll talk a little bit about the Russians as well. These are the Germans lined up on their start line. They've got a couple of a few companies here, so each one of these groups is pretty much a company. These guys are spotted by these 2 Stugs. We've also got a platoon of tanks here as well, Panzer IVs there. Another company here. There's an engineer company in there as well. There's also more Marders and also more Panzer IIIs over there, should I say, and then the 3rd company as well. So it's quite a big packed amount of Germans. However, they're going to be facing Russians who are going to be hidden in some of these buildings here. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to hide those Russians and how the game will play. The Russian defence is made up of units that are already on the table, and also some reinforcements that are heading over as well. So what I've done is I've actually broken these down into various blinds for the game. I'm not using blinds for the Germans because I'm playing the Germans, so I know exactly where all my units are. But normally in I Ain't Been Shot Mum, you would use a series of blinds to locate where your units are. For the Russians, I'm doing this, but I'm doing this very specifically for each of the particular units. So this is a 650th Anti-Tank Company, 650th Submachine Gun Company. We've got the 1st Battalion. When it says battalion, it means company. It's just battalion is used in the lists. So I'm just doing it so it makes it a lot easier for myself. But also, in here, we also have dummies as well. So I've mixed in a few dummies into each of these stacks. Now this stack in particular, the 650th, they're reserved, so they're going to come onto the board at some point in the future. I will probably roll the dice each turn, and if it's that number of the turn, then they will start to filter on. But they will also come on with some dummies, and they'll be face down, like so, so I won't actually know what it is that I've faced. The defence on the table at the start consists of basically the 308th Infantry Division, which I've got in here. Same again, you can see there's one of the battalions. Again, that's that's a company in I Ain't Been Shot Mum. This is just so I can quickly see what things are when I'm bringing them out. Okay, so they've also got anti-tank guns in there and a few other bits and pieces as well. Try and find some others. As you can see, there's plenty of dummies in there. There's another 45mm, an observation team there I just saw come up. There we are. So this is the main force of the infantry with some of their defence stuff. Over here, this is also part of the 308th, but this is actually the headquarters and their quad anti-aircraft medium machine gun. Now, the reason I put these separate is because both of those are quite small units, and also the quad machine gun is not going to be right close up at the front. That's going to be towards the rear. So I've put in a couple of dummies into the mix here, but they are going to be somewhere probably towards the back of the table over here rather than up the front of the table, because if a German Stug finds the headquarters, then it's going to quickly easily destroy it. And the fourth and final stack is the the Soviet tanks. So we've got a T-70, T-34s, another T-34, and again for each one of these I've got a dummy. A couple of these T-34s are actually dug in. So although I know what's in each of these stacks, when I shuffle them and I turn them face down, I'm not going to know which are dummies and which aren't. I've got a reasonable idea of which are going to be tanks and which are going to be infantry, but I'm still not going to know exactly where they are. In the previous game of Chain of Command that I played solo, I also gave out each defending unit an orders card, basically, just so they would do something when they appeared. In this case, I'm not going to, largely because it's such a big game anyway, and there's a lot of units on here. But also, I figure the Russians are going to be defending anyway. When they are revealed, they will be allowed to shoot once straight away at anything that they can see, and they will also most likely be in cover anyway. I'm going to put most of these things in cover, so it seems a bit silly for them to have an order that is going to be, attack the Germans. It's basically, this is the Germans trying to steamroller their way through, and the Soviets were there, not one step back. Now, I know obviously that the Soviets did attack in Stalingrad in places, but in this case I'm doing it as though it's a German attack. The Soviets are on the defence, and they're basically staying where they are. What I will do, if there is better cover when they're revealed, they will probably try to move towards that. But we'll see. What I'll do, they'll also allow them to set up within 6 inches of their revealed location as well. So that gives them a little bit of leeway as to where they want to set up. And I'll just do that for the best of that particular opportunity. I think that's probably enough to say about the setup of the game. So what I'll do now is I'll shuffle these decks up, and then I'll distribute them across the table. Oh, just one final thing. I was going to, in the previous game of Chain of Command, I allowed the Germans to, the attackers, sorry, to reveal the defenders' positions if they were within 12 inches. I think that might be a little too close in this one. So what I'm going to do is allow it up to 20 inches. There'll be no rolls for it. They will automatically just appear, and they will then continue to defend. So the Germans can either then attack them or ignore them, depending on where they are or whatever. And I would probably say that if the Germans go past the Soviets as they're defending, the Soviets will probably come and attack them in the back or something like that. But we'll see how that plays out, and we'll get this game set up. As you can see, there's now a good spread of Soviet defenders dotted about. Most of these are in buildings, in rubble, or in these trees over here. These guys on the front, and I've even got some here in the department building and also in the lower floors as well. So they're all over the place, and as I say, I don't know what any of these are. I kind of knew a couple of them that I put towards the rear were going to be the anti-aircraft gun and also the headquarters, because as I say, they're pretty fragile units, so they wouldn't want to be over the front anyway. And also I kind of knew where some of these possible tanks would be as well. I dotted some of these around in the streets as well. The ones that you can pretty much see in the streets are either going to be tanks or dummies. But we'll find that out when we get close. The Soviets are going to get a first chance to fire when they're revealed, and they can fire at anything that they can see. The buildings, because there's going to be so many holes in them, I'm using these as heavy terrain, so there'll be a -2 on anybody's movement dice moving in and out of them, and there'll also be heavy cover as well, just to get that set in there for when it comes to the moving and firing. But I think apart from that, we're probably ready to actually start this big game of Stalingrad. Okay, as I play these games, I normally explain the rules a little bit. In this one I'm not going to, because I've done a 3-part how to play I Ain't Been Shot Mum video series. The links are probably appearing on the screen right now, but they'll also be in the video description as well. So if you want to know how I'm playing the game and how things are working, then read that or watch that and have a look at the rules themselves as well. I'm just going to go through this and just show you how I play it as a solo game. So first things first, I said that the Soviets would reveal if they're within 20 inches of German units. So straight away I measured up, and already we've got that unit is in 20 inches, that one is as well, of our forward German units. We've also got a couple here as well. At least this guy, this one at the front is definitely within that 20 inches. When the Germans move forward, they'll reveal more. But for right now, we've got these 3 that I can actually see. So let's reveal these one at a time. So the first one is, it's a 45mm anti-tank gun. That's probably pretty perfect positioning for that. And as I said, alright, this building has got a solid wall on here. There's going to be holes in it that they will have put through to get the AA gun in there, anti-tank gun. The first one, this is our first dummy. So that's the middle one there, so that's gone. So I'll just put that there to remind me. So that's straight out, so that's good for the Germans. And the last one is another dummy. So far we've only spotted one anti-tank gun. So I'll get that in place, and as I said, it will fire first of all, so we'll see what that can do. And there it is, our first Soviet threat. Sitting here, looking directly at the Panzer IIIs. So as I said, this is going to get a shot first of all, so let's see what happens with that. Apologies, the 45mm gun is firing at the Panzer IVs, not Panzer IIIs. They all look the same, don't they, at this scale? It needs a 3 or above to hit, because it's firing in the open at close range and hasn't moved. So on 2d6, I think that's going to be a pretty good chance of hitting. And yes, it has, that's a 10. So it's strike dice, so 5 dice. It's firing at the front of the tank, so it needs 5 6s to cause any damage. Not a single one, so there's no point rolling the armour save. So it's fired but bounced off. And what I'll do now is I will put in the card for that particular unit for the Soviets. In the first movement, I've still not finished yet, but I managed to push forward these Panzer IIIs. They've started to come round on this flank. I've also pushed forward with the Marders as well. One guy has shot forward, managed to get over. The other one's kind of got a little bit bogged down at the back here. But the guy at the front, with his 20 inches of sight, can now spot that thing there, that thing there. He can't get the guys in the woods, but he should be able to get whoever is in the front 2 rooms of the department store there. So let's have a look at what they are. We'll get those out and then get them on the table. So first of all, this one here is Submachine Gun Battalion. This is from the 308th Infantry Division. Here in the street, it's a dummy. In here we've got one in the top room, so we'll check that. That is a dummy. And down here we've actually got 2 units, so let's see what they are. The first one is an infantry battalion, or in our case a company, and over here a dummy. So we've got infantry and submachine guns. So I'll get those put on the table and we'll go from there. Okay, on that turn I've set up the Soviets. These are depleted units, so this is why they're quite small, but here are the SMG guys. They're right behind the 45mm anti-tank gun there, you can see, and this is the what's nominally known as the 4th Battalion of the 308th Division. However, this is basically, it's a company in I am being short mum, but obviously it's a heavily smashed one. They've got several rifles, an anti-tank rifle, also one big man who's level 3, and a 50mm mortar, which I've put outside in that crater there. I said I'm allowing myself to set up anywhere within 6 inches of where the reveal is, so I think that's the most sensible place for them to be, in a large crater. So let's get back to the game. Okay, this command tank of the 36th Panzer Division has pushed forward, and with that he has also allowed us to see the Soviets in this building here. They're just within 20. This one here is just in 20, and this one here is also in 20. This guy is just out of range, or whatever it is. So let's have a look, work our way through. So the first one is, it's another 45mm anti-tank gun. Again in a perfect position to fire down that main street. We also have another infantry company. This is the next one along. And finally we have a dug-in T-34-76. So that's, again, pretty good positions for those to be in. Currently at the moment we can't really see a great deal. The anti-tank can fire down there at those tanks. Don't think the T-34 is going to be able to get a shot off, but we'll have a look at that in a second when I've set these up. So we've got the dug-in T-34. This is the infantry, platoon pretty much. This is the small infantry platoon and another level 3 big man. And then also we've got the 45mm anti-tank gun firing straight down and looking at those advancing tanks. This unit here has a medium machine gun and another anti-tank rifle. So we'll probably get a couple of shots in there at the German tanks. So 45mm gun again needs a 3 or above, firing at the central German tank. 3, it's just hit. It's very close. It has strike dice of 5, needing 5 6s to hit to do any damage. That's 1. So the German will roll again. 5s and 6s are saves, so it just needs 1. Yes, there's 3 there, so that's enough. So the 45mm did nothing. The anti-tank rifle is firing at this range. It's a 9 or above. So that's a miss. That's a 7. So that was their fire. I've just checked, and this T-34 can pretty much see the Panzer III there, so it's going to fire at it. I'm going to say that it's obscured. It's over 18 inch, so that's a 9 to hit. Mind you, it is the first shot and it is aimed, so that brings it down to 7 or above to hit. That's 9, so that's a hit. So the T-34 has 7 strike dice. There's my 7. Firing at its front needs 5 or a 6. Okay, that's 4 5s and 6s. The Panzer III has an armour of 4, so it needs 5s or 6s to save. So it's going to need to save all of these. It's saved 1. So the difference being 3 net hits, the armoured fighting vehicle is destroyed. So I've been pushing the Germans forward. So far nobody's been able to fire at anything, but I managed to get the SIG 33 assault gun, only a few of these were apparently used in Stalingrad, forward, and it is now in range and able to fire at the dug-in T-34. So I'm going to try to do that. It's just over range 18, an 8 to hit. It's its first shot, so that takes it down to 6. However, it's firing at a small profile, so that takes it back up to a 7 or above. So let's see if we get that. 6, it's just missed. That's a bit of a shame. However, we're also within 20 inches of this unit here, so we can now reveal this one. So let's see what we've got. It's the Factory Militia Battalion. These are the guys that are defending basically civilians that have been put into uniforms and given guns. So this is the Factory Militia. This is broken down into 3 different units. Each of these is pretty much a company on its own, but obviously actually completely damaged, destroyed almost. Each one is of 4 men. They've also got a Maxim MMG in there and one big man as well. That just gives you an idea of what the Soviets have got in this defence, but they are stuck in buildings at least. Okay, these Panzer IVs have managed to nose their way forward, and they're now going to take a shot at this 45mm gun here. There is also the other one over here as well, which one of these guys may take a shot at as well. He's just over 18-inch on that one. So these two are going to fire at this guy is going to fire at this one. So it's very simple firing mechanism for area fire HE. Roll 2d6 because they're up to 75mm. If this is a 1, it's a miss. So first guy, he's hit with a 7. He's over 18 inches and firing at poor. So his 7 has scored him 1 hit over here. So let's see what happens to them. 1, 2 is okay. 3, 4 is a shock, and 5, 6 is a kill. So that's a kill. Excellent. So that means that weapon is now only down to 1 action per turn instead of its normal 3. And our second shot from this guy, firing at this one. That's a miss because of the 1. And over here, firing again, second time. That's a hit with an 11. Close range in poor in 11 is 2 hits. So same again, 5, 6 kills. So 2, that's a near miss. So nothing has happened to them. But at least the Soviet artillery is now under fire from the German panzers. Okay, just pulled the T-break card, which ends this turn. So I'll just give you a quick sit rep of what's happening at the moment. That was a very good turn for the Germans. They managed to get loads of cards out. I have added some of the Soviet ones into there, but I think there was, what, 5 left? 5 units that didn't get a chance to activate this turn, so that's been pretty good out of a lot of them. So, situation at the moment, as usual, it's snafu. We've got the Stugs heading forward. This one's heading forward looking towards getting hold of that T-34 that's dug in, supported by the SIG-33. We've got the forward observers heading forward as well in their Kubelwagens. This unit didn't get off the starting points at this point, so they're still stuck behind. Mind you, the second platoon has been able to actually move a bit further forward, and they're now threatening that 45mm anti-tank gun and the submachine gunners there in these buildings. And we've also, in these buildings here, we've got engineers and various other units moving forward. These guys are supported by the tanks as they're pushing forward here as well. So I really, so far so good, but there's still obviously a hell of a lot of the board to cover at this point. Things are heating up. I've just pulled out the anti-tank, the Allied anti-tank card, so I'm giving the order to the closest Soviet anti-tank gun, the 45mm from the first. He's going to fire 3 shots if he can at some of these panzers as they're coming up the road. So we're starting with, he's in the open, firing at less than 18 inches, so he needs a 5. However, he's under fire, so that's -1. The target is moving, so that's another -1. It is the first aimed shot, so that's a +2, and that's it. So it cancels it out. So he needs a 5 or above to hit the first panzer, which is going to be this one here. So he has hit. So then we roll our strike dice versus their armour save. And the strike dice for the 45 is 5. The armour for the Panzer IVs is 5. So it's 5 versus 5. So same again, 5 6s to hit. That's 1 hit. And 5 6s to save. That's 2 saves. So nothing there. So his second shot, he's now not firing at an aim shot, so it's going to be a -2. We said it was 5, so now it's a 7 or above. He's going to fire at the same target. So that's a hit. So same again, 5 6s are hits. There isn't a single one there. There's no point rolling the armour save. So his final shot is another 7, and that's a 6. So he's missed. That was probably his good chance. And straight away we've got our Stugs. So this Stug is going to fire at the concealed dug-in T-34. So it's his first shot, so it's an aimed shot, so it's a +1. He's in the open. It's just over 18 inches, so it's an 8 we're starting with. He's not under fire. The target isn't moving. There's no shock. There's no gun sights. It's not small. The target is small, should I say. So that's a -1. It's a +2 for his aimed shot, and this is it. So we've got a +1, and we need an 8 or above. So 6, that's a miss, so we'll fire again, this time with a -1 because he doesn't get that aimed shot. So he needs a 9 or above. That's 1 hit. The strike dice of the Stug is 8 against the T-34's armour of 7. No, sorry, not 7. T-34's armour of 6. Oh, that's a lot of hits. So that was a 6, so that's 5 hits. So T-34 have got to get rid of 5 5s or 6s. And there's 1 there. So that is a T-34 destroyed. With the short-nosed Stug brewing up the T-34 that was dug in down here, the SIG-33 is now shoved forward to come and try to deal with some of these infantry in these buildings. However, because he's done that, it means we get to reveal some more Soviets. So looking at 20 inches from here, there's the guys in the factory over here, there's this thing, and this thing over here. So let's have a look at these in turn, see what we have. First one is a dummy. The second one in these buildings here is the observation team. Now, they are spotting for the Katyushas, so this could get interesting. I'll just stick that there so I remember. Over here in the factory we have another dummy, and finally this thing here is a T-70, so more armour. Excellent. So yeah, just put that back there and I'll get these onto the board and we can go from there. Right, we're going to unleash the SIG on the factory militia. It's rolling 4 dice for its attack because it's a 150mm gun. If it gets 2 1s or more, then it misses. Otherwise, it's a hit, and we'll work out what damage it does. 2 1s, so it's actually missed. That's a shame. First time he got into action. But never mind. On with the fight. The German big man in command of platoon number 2 has just ordered his units to, basically at least 2 of his units, to rush forward into this 45mm guns position to close combat them. Finally, hopefully getting rid of them. This is the idea. Thus, we've managed to get 18 men across the street and into position to fight against 3 men. So there's a good chance the Germans are going to do this. So we add up our dice. So we need 18 first of all. So we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 17, 18. For each action of movement was used, they take 1d6 off. There's 2 units in there. They're both used 2 actions for movement, so that's 4 off straight away. Troops not aggressive, troops not stubborn, troops not green. There's no senior big men present in that particular fight. There's no HMGs, there's no SMGs in there. There's no flamethrowers, no engineers, and there's no points of shock on those units, and they're not defending. So this is it for the Germans. So we need a 5 or a 6, we'll kill, with a 6 inflicting shock. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 kills. So that's wiped out the gun team at least. Let's just see how many Germans are killed in the fight back. So we start with our 3. They haven't moved, not aggressive, stubborn or anything like that, but they are defending heavy terrain. So they have 3d6 so far, so they get an extra d6 for that. And that's it. So same again. 5 or 6 is a kill, with a 6 being a shock. None. So the Germans have destroyed that 45mm gun, finally. despite the tanks firing as much as they could at it. But it took the infantry to do it. On the German right flank so far, they've moved forward this unit. The big man down here was able to push a few of these sections forward. This is the third platoon. They've also got their observers coming up as well, trying to get some room in some of these buildings up here so they can actually get some fall of shot coming in. But within 20 inches we've got 3 Soviet cards. So I'm going to reveal these. Let's see what they are. So, in the department store we have another 308th Infantry Battalion. So put those there, so that'll be the 3rd of their units now. The next one is another infantry battalion, so they're down there in the woods, and the last one is a dummy. So I'll get these guys on the board. In the ruined parkland is this shattered platoon, and then also in the store, in the department store, is the other shattered platoon. I've allowed these to set up within 6 inches of their card, which was in this back room, and the front room is just within 6 inches, and as that's where the threat is, I figured that's probably the best place for them to be set up. It's the chance of the 45mm anti-tank gun again to fire, so this is going to fire at the Stug over here as it's coming through that little gap in the buildings. We're starting on a 5 because it's in the open and less than 18 inches. It gets a -1 because the fire is under fire. The target is also moving, but he gets a +2 because it's his first aim shot. However, they only have 1 action, so this is it. They've got to make it count. And that's a hit with a 7, so that's good. So they need to now roll their strike dice, which for the 45mm, don't think it's going to do a great deal against this Stug, but we've got to try. The Stug has got an armour of 6. The AT gun has got a weapon strike of 5, so it may, if they're lucky, they might get a couple of hits off this Stug here. So let's have a look. 5s and 6s, so that's 3 hits. So the Stug has got to save 3 hits, otherwise it may go up in smoke. Let's have a look. He's saved 2 of those hits, so it takes 1 point of shock, and also it's temporarily immobilised with no movement on the next activation only. The Allied 3rd platoon is opening fire from within these ruins here. They're going to be firing across the square into these Germans that are advancing up. So we've got these guys here and these guys here. They're going to be their targets. They've got an MMG, which is going to fire at those guys, and then they've got the infantry who are going to fire at these. They're all using all 3 of their actions. So first of all, oops, let's not throw dice around. We've got the infantry. They're firing to effective range. So that's a 10, 11. That's effective range. It's a great shot because they're literally in the open. That's 5 hits and a pin. So they're pinned. Let's see what those 5 hits do. That's 1 kill and 2 shock. So that means they can't move for the remainder of this until we pull out the T-break card. So that's kind of stops them in their tracks. Now the MMG is firing over at the section over here, firing with 3 dice. This is a good range, this is close range, sorry, and again a good target. So that's 13 on good. That's 10 hits and a pin. So put the pin down. And let's see what those hits are. 5 6s are kills, 3 4s are shock. There's an awful lot of shock in there. 2 kills, 6 shock. Ooh. So that may have an effect on their morale. They don't lose their bottle just yet, but they're obviously pretty upset at the moment. What we need to do is get the big man up there so he can actually reduce that shock and help them out of it. Okay, with the T-break card just pulled, let's have a little quick sit rep as to what's happening over here then. So far these German Stugs have managed to get further forward than pretty much anybody else at the moment. One has been struck a couple of times and has taken a bit of shock, but neither have been destroyed. They've destroyed the dug-in T-34 that was stuck down behind this building. They almost destroyed the 45mm gun here. There's only 2 crew left. However, the Soviets have put out a punishing fire against the Germans here as they were coming across this square. The pins will now get removed because we've ended the turn. Over here we've still lost the German Panzer. We've got more stuff moving up at least. This platoon over here has finally got off the starting point and started moving forward. The German observers have got into the Old Town Hall, looking out the window there, checking out the scene in front of them. Hopefully going to call in some Stukas if they can. Over on this side of the table, the German panzers still haven't really been able to push further forward than where they are now. They were held up by those 2 45mm guns, but hopefully that shouldn't last too long now. And on the right hand side, same again, this Marder here is stuck. It's not been able to move, and the Panzer IIIs are pushing forward with elements of these other platoons. We've also got the headquarters and the engineers moving up in the centre. They're going to be useful because they've got a flamethrower, so that should be pretty useful against the Soviets that are in the building here. And we've got a line of defence in the old wrecked parkland here of these Soviets. So slow going at the moment. Still plenty to play for. There's still a huge amount of Soviets yet to be revealed. So I think this is going to be a pretty tough one for the Germans to actually break through and get anywhere. But let's see how we go. The big man over here, Soviet big man number 2, is activating this anti-tank gun to fire at the Marder. It's in a range of 14. So a range of 14, we need a 6 or more to hit. The target was moving, so that takes it down to a 7, but it's also the first shot, so that takes it down to a 5. It's a miss. They have 3 actions though, so they can fire with those 3 actions. So the second one is not an aimed shot, so now that becomes a 7. It's a miss, and the final shot, another 7. That's another miss. However, Armada now gets to take some revenge, so it's going to lay down some high explosive fire on the Soviets in the park. So a 1 is a miss, that's 8 hits, up to 18 inch, and I'm going to give that a OK cover rating. So that's 4 hits, damages. Let's see what those hits do. 1 kill, 1 shock, 2 kills, 1 shock. So they're going to fire again. So they're still on 1 shock. See if the commander has been killed, the big man. 2, yes, he's been hit. So he's one of the killed. So they've now lost their big man. The next shot from the Marder, again a 1 will be a miss. So that's an 8. In close range, that's another 4 hits. So let's get those rolled. That's another kill and 3 shock. So that's those guys gone. And then, oops, now they're on 4 shock. There's only 5 of them left. And the final shot from the Marder, that's a miss. Rolled the 1. That's not bad, that's almost wiped out that Soviet unit. That's why you don't mess around with Marders. The Factory Militia big man has been activated, so he's going to get this section and this section, and the MMG to fire down again onto the Germans that are in the square. They're all going to fire at those guys there. So that's again in good. The MMG is close range, so all our dice, we've got 10, 13, it's 11 hits and a suppression. actually wiped them out. There's a few in there, 2, 4, 5, 9, 10, 11. Let's have a look. 5, 6 kills. That's 1, 2, 3 kills, 4 shock. So that's that base off. 8 shock. So they are going to immediately retreat from that position because they've got 5 men left. So they're 3 shock above that. So that's going to be 13 inches back. So the second team, the rifles now will turn their fire on this unit over here. So they're at 24. We're just out of close assault range on those tanks, unfortunately. Stugs, should I say. So, first one firing again at effective range with a great shot. First one is 9, 13, that's 6 hits. Let's roll up those 6 hits. Oh, that's not good. 1 shock, 4 kills. Second section, fire the same. Effective range on a great, so that's 9. So that's 4 hits and a pin, they're already pinned. And 1 kill. Right, I've got some German engineers up into this building now, overlooking the SMG guys down there. They've got a flamethrower team in there, so that fires 9 inches. They're going to fire it straight into there. They're also going to fire them with their rifles. The flamethrower does 5d6 of damage and ignores all cover, so that's automatically going to be good. It doubles all shock when it hits. I don't think this is going to look particularly good for that section of SMG guys. There's only 6 of them in there. Let's have a look. That's 10, 16, 20, 21. So that's 15 hits and they're suppressed. So let's roll those 15 hits. 15. That has killed 1. That was a 6. 1, 2, 3. Let's take any out that don't count. That's an awful lot of kills. 2 suppression, so that becomes 4, but literally wipes them out in one go. Power of the flamethrower. Okay, and then they're also going to fire now. The rest of the remaining team are going to use their 2 actions because they're using action to get into the building. They're going to fire across at the group in the top up there. So that's firing at, it's going to be close range, yeah, close range just in. I'm going to say that's poor because they're in heavy cover. So that's a 7, 7 in poor is 2 hits, 5 sixes of kills. 1 kill, 1 shock. Here's a quick sit rep on the next tea break that's just happened. Not a great deal has happened over here. We've had the German squad section wiped out and another one had to fall back under fire from the factory militia. We've had the German, one of the headquarters came forward and got rid of some of the shock on some of these guys at the forward. The big thing that happened, the best thing that happened was the German engineers got into position with their flamethrower, took out the SMG squad, and also were able to fire at some of the guys in the department building. And also over here we had this Marder who basically took out half of this platoon, this Soviet platoon over here, really, with just some heavy high explosive fire. In other bits and pieces, we've got the 14th Panzer headquarters heading forward to come over to try and help out some of these chaps over here with some of their shock as well. So that's pretty much all it was. That was a quick turn, that one. So let's move on to the next one. The Soviets that are holed up in the bottom of the department store are now firing up at the engineers up here. They've got a big man of level 3. He's going to add his fire to their fire as well, so that gives them a +3 on their dice. They're using all 3 actions. They're firing at heavy cover, just in effective range. So we've got 6, 12, 16. Yes, just 9-inch. So effective range, close range in poor, 3 hits and a pin. So the 3 hits, 1 kill, 1 shock and a pin. The plucky T70 is going to take on these Panzer IIIs. He's pulled himself around this corner. I'm going to take a shot at them and see what happens. So let's sorry, he's not under fire, target's not moving, it's an aim shocks, it's the first one, so it's +1. He's in the open, range 18, so it's just within 18. So we need a 5 with a +2, so 3+ to hit. That is a hit. That's an 8. So the strike dice of the T70 is 5 against the armour of the Panzer III is only 4. Let's go with the strike dice. 5 6s. That's 2 hits. So saving roll with 4. Needs 5 6s. That's 2 saves. But still it causes a shock. And as he used 2 turns to move, he only has that 1 fire. The Germans have moved their second platoon into better positions here, so we're going to fire down again at the Soviets in the buildings there. They're firing at the bottom group, so they're only rolling 2 dice because they've moved 1 to get into the building. They're firing at close range with a poor rating. So let's look at that. 7. That's 2 hits on the Soviets. Let's see what that does for them. That's a kill and a shock. I'll just put my markers down there so I remember. And with all that movement going on, I'm firing. I forgot that we've actually moved these 2 units into range of these 2 Soviet units here. So let's see what we've got. We have T-34 dug in and a dummy. So we'll get another T-34. Over on the other side of the square, we have now got this platoon of Allies firing across at the Germans over there. So they've got an MMG and a platoon. The MMG is in close range, the rifles are in effective range, firing at poor because they're in, now they've finally got into cover. So do the MMG first, so that's given us 5, 9, close range, so that's 2 hits. So there's 2 units in there, so I'll spread the hits between them. So let's see, 1 kill and 1 nothing. But there is also their big men in there, so there's 2 of those. So we'll see if they're the ones that are killed. So this is the ranking officer, no, and the non-ranking officer, no. And the rifles are now firing. They're firing at effective range in poor, so that's 7, 10. That's 1 hit. Let's see what that does. That causes 1 shock. And then finally from that platoon we have the anti-tank rifle going to fire at the Stug again. So let's give that a go. Starts on a 5, it's its first shot, so that goes down to 3. They are under fire. Yes, they are under fire. So -1. So that's 4 or above. That's a hit. It has a strike dice, I believe, of 3. Yeah, strike of 3. No hits. The Stug survives them all, but still takes a shock anyway. It's the Stug's turn to attack. This one is almost on breaking point from its shock. The SIG 33 is still fine, so the SIG is going to try to destroy as many of this factory militia as it can, whilst this one is going to be firing over at the T70. We'll try with the Stug first of all against the T70. It needs a 5 starting. It's under fire, so that becomes a 6. There's 2 points of shock. 8 However, it's its first shot, so that brings it back to a 6. So that's a hit on the T70. The Stug has a strike of 6, just one hit, whereas the T70 has an armour of 5. So ignore that one. And that's no saves. So that's one hit. So I'll roll again. A 6. The turret hit. Any subsequent rolls to hit are -1 due to gun damage. And also take 1 shock and lose an action. And now we're firing against the infantry. I'm going to call this an anti-building mortar because of the size of it. So it's rolling 5d6. 2 1s will do no damage at all. So there's only 1 1. So that's caused 6, 12, 16, 17, 19 points of damage. That's 4 hits and a pin. Let's see what the hits are. 1 kill, 1 shock, and that's it. So let's see if that kill is on their big man. On a 1, nope. So just 1 kill, 1 shock and a pin. So it's this Soviet turn to fire. They're going to fire at the section directly ahead of them. The MMG will fire at the engineers, and then the rifles will fire at the section ahead of them. So we'll start with the MMG. It's going to use all of its dice for firing, so all 3 actions, and it's they're in poor. That's good. That's 16. So that's 3 hits and a pin. So they're pinned straight away. 3 hits, 5 6s are kills. Remember, so that's 2 kills. So take that base off and stick that one on. And then the rifles are firing at effective range. So 6, 7, 1 hit, and that's nothing. Okay, the Panzer IVs are now going to fire. The immediate threats is the T70 and the 45mm gun in here as well. So I'm going to try to get rid of them as quick as possible. So we'll start with just an 18 for the first shot. That's double hit. So we have a strike dice of 7. That's 3 hits. They have an armour of 5. And they've saved 2. 1 net hit. So it takes a point of action, point of shock anyway. It's getting close to breaking. And 5 is a turret hit. So that's another -1. So it's now a -2, the T70 from its previous turret hit. So the next shot from the same Panzer IV, firing out the same thing. So starts on a 5, it's not under fire, that's not moving. It's got 2 points of shock, so -2, so 7 and above. So that's a hit. So we roll again with a strike dice of 7. How many hits this time? 1, 2, 3, 4. Defense dice of 5. That's 2. So that's 3. 3 or above is a destroyed T70. We can now turn our attention to the 45mm gun. So this time we're firing as HE. So this is its final shot. Firing HE up to 75mm, 2d6, it will miss on a 1, so a 7. On close range in poor, 7 is 2 hits. There's only 2 crew left in there. Let's see what happens to them. 1 killed and a shock. So he now has 2 shock. So the crew, and there's only 1 crew left. So effectively that is dead. So I'm going to take it off the table because it can't fire with less than 1 crew anyway, or with the 1 crew, and also his amount of shock has made him retreat. So that's eliminated a second threat. Good shooting, Tex. We've still got these other 2 Panzer IVs at the back. I did keep calling them Panzer IIIs, they're not, these are the Panzer IVs. I don't know if I can hit the anti-tank rifle from there. Yes, I can. Straight line to it. So this one will fire anti-tank rifle and the anti-tank rifle. This is long range, poor shot. Let's see, 3. That's not going to do anything. Yeah, that's a miss. A long range poor. His second shot, 7. That's 1 hit. That's killed 1 of the crew. And his third and final shot for this turn. Get rid of these AT guns up here, might be doing a bit better. So his third shot is a miss anyway because of that 5. We've also got the short barrel 75 that is going to fire into there as well at the same target. So 9. He's at short range, so that's 2 hits. So he just needs a 5 or a 6 on any of these. 5, that's enough. That's killed that AT gun. Sorry, AT rifle, should I say? That there has also eliminated that threat. So what I'm going to do is, with his other move, he's going to move forward 6 inches and try to get up a bit closer to try and break some of these infantry in the middle. That was a good round that from the Panzer IVs. Well done, lads, well done. With the Panzer IIIs now moving up, they've actually been able to reveal this next Soviet card, and this is a dummy. Hey! These Panzer IIIs are threatening the guys in the woodland here, but there is also a T-34 dug in, just waiting for them just round that corner. The Germans have called in some fire, off-board fire, support fire, from their 305 and 250mm howitzers that are off table. They're going to try to bring this down on the Soviets that are in the building here. So we basically roll 1 deviation dice. If there's a hit, it's on target, otherwise it'll deviate. So it deviates this way and it deviates 3d6. It's not good for the Germans. 7, that's 9 inches that way. So this is the aiming point. 9 inches literally on top of that stug. So that's fallen short. 4 artillery pieces, so the kill zone radius is 7 inches. So that's including the German observers themselves. All the way around. So the observers, this section in here, and the 2 stugs. That's pretty unfortunate. 2 plus 2 pips, so that's 10. So 5 hits on the infantry down here. Let's see how many are killed. 4 are killed and a shock. They're pinned anyway. So another shock, so that means they've not yet lost their bottle, but they're getting close. We're rolling 1 dice, plus 1 for each of these, so the Stugs 4, the Sig 5, The Stug loses an action, and the Sig also loses an action as well. That was pretty disastrous fire, that, from the German guns. If it couldn't have gone any worse, it really couldn't have done. And then back over on this side, we've got the Soviets in here firing. So they've got their mortar is going to fire 3 and try to do some damage on the engineers here. So 4, 5, 6s. So that's 3 shock on the engineers. Then we've also got a rifle group in there. They're going to fire. They're firing at 9 inches in poor. So that's 9, 10, 11. That's 2 hits. 2 hits are 1 more shock. And we've also got the anti-tank rifle in there, which is going to take a shot at one of these Panzer 3s, sorry, over here, this one here. So we're starting with a 5 because he's in the open. They are being fired at, because they've been fired at by quite a few units at this point. They've got, so we're starting on a 5. It's the first shot, so that takes it to a 3. They're being fired at, so that takes it to 4. There's no shock on them. So that's a hit. That does 3 hits. So that's 1. That's hits. Panzer 4s, I've got an armour value of, Panzer 3s, sorry, have an armour value of 4. No saves, so that's 1 damage. Take 1 shock, lose an action, and see what else happens to them. 3 is engine damage, so 1 pip off the movement of dice. Ooh, so even for such a small piddly weapon, it's done some damage. Over here, we've got this Soviet rifle. He's going to fire again at the tank here. Try to get these knocked out as quick as possible. So they're starting on a 3 to hit, sorry, on a 5 to hit. First shot, it's not under fire, so it's a 3 or above. That's a hit. The Soviet strike dice are 3. No. The tank is 4. It's alright anyway, but it still takes a shock. So it's worthwhile plugging away at that. And the infantry, Soviet infantry, are going to fire up at the German engineers over there using all 3 dice. They're firing at poor, 10, 11. At poor, in effective range, that gives them 1 hit. And that is a kill. So they're slowly whittling those Germans down, and then their mortar will also fire at the same unit. 4, 5, 6 is a shock, so that's 2 more shock on them. These Germans have really got to get off these buildings and get into, I think, into close assault against these Soviet defenders, because they're proving pretty tenacious at this point. The Germans have managed to get this Marder actually forward. Obviously his engine's not sticking anymore, so he's firing at the group in the bottom there. That's an 8, up to 18 inches in poor. An 8 is 2 hits. Let's see what that does. So that's 2 shock. And our second Marder has moved forward, and he's going to take shots again at these Soviets in the trees. So that's a 5 for his first shot. And we said that was okay cover. A 5, that's 2 hits. So roll those 2 hits. 2 more shock, so that puts them up to 6 now. So we'll take another shot at them. and that's a miss. Straight back with the engineers. They are now firing their flamethrower into the unit. Let's see which one's worst, which one's best. They can't reach them anyway, so they're firing into the unit in the bottom. It's 5d6. We've got -5 because they've got 5 shock. Ignoring cover, so that's 7, 8, 9, 10. Ignoring that 5. 10 is 9 hits and a pin. That's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9 hits. Kills 1. And gives them 4 shock. So let's see what that does to them. 7 shock. And they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 men in there. Then the rifles will fire. 3d6 again, -5 because of the shock. 4, 5, no effect. Having just drawn the tea break, let's have a quick sit rep. So we basically managed to shove some of the German armour forward here into this line. So we're beyond this stop line here at least, and we're able to now engage the Soviets, and there's quite a lot of infantry here, so there's still these guys in the woods, and then there's also the ones in the department store as well. These chaps have taken quite a battering at this point, but I've managed to be able to move a lot more infantry up here. The Stugs unfortunately are under artillery fire from German artillery, and what I'm going to do now, I think it's appropriate to probably bring in the Soviet reinforcements, and that's these guys right at the very back here. I'm just going to shove these forward 12 inches on every tea break until I get to a point where they're either spotted or they get into some kind of cover. So that's what I'll do now. One thing I'd forgotten was that the rifles in this area, the second company, had actually broken. They should have broken, they should have fallen back, they have done now. They're still remaining with a 5cm mortar and also the anti-tank rifle. So the 5cm mortar is going to fire at the guys in the buildings. 6s now because they're in cover, but that gives them 1 point of shock. But this has almost destroyed the Soviet sector, which is pretty good. The anti-tank rifle will fire again out to the Panzer III because it's been firing at that for a while. So we're starting on 5, becomes a 3. They have been fired at. The target is moving, so I'm going to put it back up to a 5. It's a hit. That's a 4, so that's a miss. So their second round is now going to be a 7 to hit. That's another miss, and their third shot, another 7 to hit. That is 1 hit. 3 strikes, that's 1 effect. 4 chances to save, and it bounces off, but that still causes this tank another shock. So now the tank is on its morale level, so it can't actually advance any more than that. It will fall back. So at least they've managed to get its morale damaged, if not destroyed the tank itself. Ever glutton for punishment, the Germans have actually brought in support fire again, so they're going to try to drop it there. Roll the deviation dice. That's a hit! Yay! This time it hits everything within a 7-inch circle of the area. That's the kill zone, so there might be a good chance of taking quite a few units out here. Yes, it's 7-inch kill zone because there's 7 pieces of artillery. So this time, thankfully, the Stugs are just outside of it, but it will affect the 2 units that were in there, and they are taking 2d6 plus 2 on their damage roll. So 6 for the infantry and 10 for the machine gun. I've done those separately and reducing the cover, so it's down to OK. So the first one is 10 against the MMG. That's 2 hits on the MMG. So reroll those, 5 6s are kills. It's only a 3-man crew. 1 kill, 1 shock, and that was 6 for the others. So that was 2 hits. So a kill on the infantry, and everybody under it is pinned. So with the second German platoon activated, there's not a great deal they could do. One of the sections is already broken. These guys are pretty smashed up. They can't actually fire any effect. So they managed to bring forward the command section and one of the other sections to at least get into here, which means they can fire at this 5cm mortar, which I'll do in a second. But more importantly, they're actually going to reveal these 2 units that we can see over here. We've got this one, they're just within 20 inches of both of those. Just checking that again, yeah, 20 inches and 20 inches. So let's see what we've got. These guys are, oh, it's a 76mm gun, anti-tank gun. Not what we needed. And a dummy. So we've got a 76mm gun that's been dragged upstairs into there, kind of covering this square area. So I'll get that set up and then I'll do some firing on these mortars. I probably won't show you the outcome of that. I'll talk about it in the next tea break, but we'll crack on. We've just revealed this 76mm anti-tank gun up here. This is now going to fire down at the Panzer IV down here, which you can see. It needs a 6 or above because of the factors. Let's see if it hits. That's a hit. The 76mm AT gun has a strike factor of 7 against the armour of 5 on the Panzer IVs. 7, so let's see how many hits we take out of that. Well, that's only 2 hits on it, so let's re-roll these. 5 6s are saves. That's 2 saves, but that's negates it, but that still gives them a shock on their Panzer IV, so it can't do any further forward movement. So we've had some infantry firing over here. The German units have actually destroyed the Soviet anti-tank rifle in the woods. Also half decimated the, half destroyed the 50mm mortar. However, over here the Soviets are now going to be firing up at the Germans. They're firing on 3 dice, the -7 because of their shock. So that's 10, 11, -7 is a 4 at up to 9 inch. That's 1 hit. So let's see what happens. The German engineers, a 4 is another shock. So that's really hurting those engineers at the moment. So they're now on 6 shock. Really need to get a big man to reduce that if they can. Because that is not great. They're still able to hold on because they've still got 8 men in that unit. They're probably not going very far at the moment. They've also got an anti-tank rifle in there, but that really can't see anything from that location, I would say. The Marder is just behind there and everything else is just a little bit too far out. So not great. And in the Panzer corner, this guy was firing at these, killed a couple of Soviet defenders in that factory. This one, who is unable to move forward, fired at the anti-tank gun, did very little damage to it, nothing in fact, and this guy has just pushed himself a little bit further forward so he can actually take advantage of shooting at some of the infantry or even the anti-tank gun up there in that factory. The German engineers have managed to get themselves up with their flamethrower, and they're now just about to burn out these Soviets in this bottom of this building. So it's 5d6. There's no reductions for shock on the German engineers. This is the elite engineers. Double all shock and ignore all cover. this is going to be nasty. So that's 10, 18, 20. That's 14 hits, and they are suppressed. So let's do the 14 hits. 5, there's 10 there. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kills. 1 shock, 2 shock. 5 kills, 1 shock. 5 kills and 3 shock. So there, they had reduced their shock down, so it's now 6, another 6 shock on top. They're now on to 10, and they've had 5 kills. So I'll go see if their big man is one of the killed. Under a 5 on a D10, 50-50 chance of this. Yes, he's one of the killed. So we take off another 4. 2, 3, 4, and as there are only 3 men in there, they have broken, so they will retreat, and if they don't reduce their shock before the end of the tea break card, then they are gone. That was a spectacular result. So they are retreating 11, 17 inches back. So we've got the factory militia firing again. We've got the MMG going to fire down at the infantry in the open down there. It's going to be quite an easy shot. I should have learned by now not to stand about in the open. So that's 7, 8, 9, up to 18 inch, and I'm going to give that an okay shot because they're behind cover. They're pinned. Take 4 hits. There's only 3 of them left. 2 kills and a shock. So there's now only 1 left. And they will retreat. Quick sharpish. They're taking their 4 shock with them. And again, if they don't recover, oh, it's 2d6, sorry, not. So that's 5 plus 6, so that they've run back 11. If they don't recover by the end of the tea break, then they're off the table as well. So that's another one. So that was the MMG. Now we've got the 2 infantry units. Both of these, this one they're down to 2 actions at this point, I would say. So they're going to fire at the observation team in the old town hall across the road, across the way there, and that's over 9 inches. So that's a 7. 7 in poor. That's 1 hit, and it's a kill. So their shock also now takes effect. So they are now retreating by 10 inches. They've fallen back as well, with 1 dead. And that means these Germans behind them will also take a shock as they are interpenetrated by men falling back. So these factory militia are proving particularly difficult to shift at the moment. I really need to get some units up here and actually break them, but nothing's happening. I might get some of these engineers across if I can. This dug-in T-34 is going to get a chance to fire, so it's going to fire over here at this Panzer 3, sorry. It's 18 inches, just on the dot. Let's see what it can do. So it's in the open, 18 inches, that's an 8. The fire is not under fire, the target isn't moving, there's no shock, there's no gun sight damage, no low profile, there's no other negative factors. It is an aimed shot, so that gives it a +2. There's no static target, the fire is not higher, there's no big men directing the fire. So it's an 8 with a +2, so 6 or above basically. That's a hit. The strike dice from a T-34 76 is 7. 7, so we're looking at 5s and 6s. So that's 3 hits. The armour value of the Panzer III is 4, so it needs to. It needs 5s and 6s here. 1. So the T-34 has caused 2 net hits on it. It takes 2 points of shock, loses 2 actions, and 2. It's permanently immobilised. Right, we're just reaching another tea break, so I'll give you another sum up of what's happening. You may have noticed I'm cutting out a lot of the dice rolling and things at this point, because it takes a while to set the camera up and stuff. I can just give you some action, tell you what's happening at the end of each of these actions. So far the Germans have managed to get their way, push forward quite a lot now. They're actually up against this stop line of the Soviet defences here just by the department store. They've managed to burn out the Soviet defenders in the bottom. There's still a handful of defenders up on the top here, you can just see them, but we have got a lot of armour and infantry ready to go in next turn. We've got the threat of the T-34 that's dug in here. A lot of these things here at the back now, these Soviets, these are all broken, so these are actually going to come off the table this tea break. We've got the new units have arrived, the reinforcements, they're the ones that are on their side, so I'm going to move those forward as well into new positions. Over on this side of the table, we are slowly making progress with the armour. It's taking a while, it can't really do a great deal. Here's a bit more of a mess around these factories. This is proving particularly difficult to get through. We've got a couple of broken units, they'll be off this turn. We've managed to occupy this building at least with a couple of sections, so they're now able to bring down fire on the factory militia, who are proving almost impossible to shift out of here. We've had an aerial bombardment on these. Sorry, not aerial bombardment, but an artillery bombardment, but he hasn't shifted them. The Stugs haven't moved this turn, they've done nothing, so they've been pretty useless. And we've also got this anti-tank threat up here as well of the 76mm gun. So far, this is how the battle is progressing. Very slowly, a lot slower than I would have thought actually, but we'll see what happens in the next full turn. Okay, I picked up where I've left off. This is actually day 3 now of this game. I've been able to leave it out overnight, and I probably will do. We'll play a good few hours today. This is a Sunday now. I'm just, like I said, just about to start off, and I realise that these Panzer IIIs are pushed forward enough to be able to reveal this card here, which is one of the Soviet reinforcements that's just moved in. So we'll have a look at what that is. It is... oh, it's the 650th Anti-Tank Company. So that's going to be another gun, another stop for these guys over here. So I'll get that set up and we'll crack on with the game. With the appearance of these 2 anti-tank rifles from the 650th Regiment, they're going to fire at these Panzer IIIs as they're coming through just behind the woodland. So we've got 2 of them. I worked it out. They both need a 5 or above to hit on 2d6. So one of them is hit, that's a 9, and the other one has also hit. They're both firing at the same tank. They both have a strike value of 3 against the tank's armour of 4. So let's see what their strike is. The first one, 0 hits, and the second one, 1 hit. So let's see what the armour value of that is. Now work out what happens to these tanks. It hasn't saved any, so it's had 1 net hit and 0 net hits from the other shot. So the damage inflicted on this has been 2 shock, and it can't advance, and also it gets a -1 on its movement in future turns because they've damaged its wheels. So our first card has come from the big man of the first company here in what is now known as Pavlov's house, because it's so difficult to shift. He is directing the fire of a rifle team and the medium machine gun. The rifle team are going to fire down at the the engineers as they come into the open. He's directing fire, so that gives them a +3. However, they've also got 1 shock, so that gives them only a +2. So we'll roll a dice, see what we got. 16, 18. So that's 14 hits and a suppression. So I'll put the suppression down straight away. That means they can't move or fire this turn, which is a bit not great, because I wanted to get them to get a bit closer with their flamethrower to hopefully try to burn somebody else. We've got 14 hits. Let's see what damage this does. So these guys are in the open, so it's going to be quite a good shot. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kills and 3 shock. So quite nasty. They're still okay to operate, but that's pretty badly battered then. Oh dear. It's not 6 shock, it's 3 shock. There we are. And they are also suppressed. So despite their great turnout with their flamethrower last turn, pretty nasty. Now the MMG is going to fire. Now we've battered them, they battered them should I say. The MMG is going to fire up here at the remainders of these engineers, because they've also got a flamethrower. They're a big threat. So they're now rolling 3d6. This is short range but in a poor situation. So that's 13. 13 is 3 hits and a pin. So that means they can't actually move forward this turn, but they can fire at a reduced. Let's see what their hits are. 1 extra shock. So the next one is the Allied Headquarters Company 2. So it's actually these 2 rifles again, which have already fired, but they only fired because they appeared, and I said that was going to be their little extra ambush. So they now get to fire again in this turn, and they are going to fire at this Panzer IV instead. So we're starting on a 5. It's going to be exactly the same as previously, because of all the mess of the woods in front of them. I've given them a -2, but they get a +2 because it's the first shot. So first one, that's a hit. That's 3 dice against the tank's armour of 4. That's 3 hits. He's got to save these, otherwise his tank is toast. He's saved 3. So we roll on the dice on the table to see what happens to the tank, and that's a 4. He must halt and engage the fire in a firefight in its next activation. So that's got to fire at those now. He's going to fire his same shot at the same tank. However, this time it's going to be a bit more difficult. It's going to be a 7 because it's a snapshot. Oh, sorry, it's for 2 dice, not 3. 5, that's a miss, and his final fire is going to be the same. An 8, so he's hit it again. So let's see what happens. So that's 2 hits on the German tank. He won't destroy it, but he could do some damage here. He saved those again, so the German again rolls a d6 to see what happens. That's a 5. No effect. So that's his 3 shots. The other one will do the same, firing at the tank that they fired at before, the one with the damaged tracks. So we're starting on a 5. That's a hit. 3 dice to see the damage. No hits, so they're all saved. So we just roll on the top table. The 3 is he must halt and engage the fire on his next action, which he most likely will do. So this guy's got to fire at him, he's got to fire at him. He was doing that anyway. Next shot is 7. That's a hit. So that's 2 strikes and saves, 1 save. So the difference being 1 net hit. See what happens. It's a 1. He's temporarily immobilised, so there's no movement next turn. He's got to stay there anyway and fire. That was the second shot. So the third, final shot, 7 and above. 6, that's a miss. So it caused a bit of consternation, even though they're only rifles. Back on the German left flank, it's the Soviet unit over here. So they're going to fire at the Germans that are in the buildings here, and the MMG is going to fire up at the Germans that are in the buildings in here. So we'll get those set up, using all their actions to do so. So the first one's here firing across into those buildings. So that's an 8. This is up to 9 inches. It is poor shot. So it's 2 hits. See what happens. And that's 2 kills. So that's another base in there wiped out. I'll come back to that. And the MMG is firing across here. Short range, poor shot. So that's 8, 13. That's 3 hits and a pin. So we're going to go with the guys in the top of the town hall here. You see them. 1 shock. So it's the German Panzer IIIs. As I said, this one has got to engage the enemy over there anyway, as has this one. This guy is a bit more freer to do something, but let's get this firing out of the way. So the first shots from this one at the rifle, the AT rifles in that building. He's rolling 2d6 minus his shock, is a 3, minus 3, and he's firing at short range in poor. Also any ones will miss. So that's 2, short range in poor, that's just a miss. So his second shot, that's a 5, short range in poor is 1 hit. That's 1 shock on the first unit, and they're only a 2-man unit, so they may soon get wiped out. But let's have a look. His third shot, that's another 5, so that's another single hit and another shock. So they're actually on 2 shock now. Any more shock on them and they're going to disappear off. The other Panzer III over here is going to take shots. He's a -2, so that's a 5, so that's 1 hit. So that's nothing. His second shot, his 5 minus 2 is 3. At that range, that's still 1 hit. So that's a shock. And then his final shot, 3 minus 2 is 1, that's a nothing. So we've still got the other Panzer III here that I can do something with. Now, I can either blat away. I think we've got enough infantry over there to deal with this house, so I'm going to blat away at these anti-tank rifles. No, I'm actually going to fire at that T-34. I've forgotten about that. That fella is looking pretty angry at us. So that's 18 inch, just on. So that starts on a 5. That's the tank's first shot. So that gives him a +2. So that takes it to 3. Firer is not under fire. There's a -2 because of his shock. Target is low profile, so -3 so far. And that's currently it, I'm going to say, at this point. He is a 5, needs a 5, so he's got a +2 on it. So that's a 5, +2 is a 7, so that's a hit. So again, we work out our strike dice against the T-34. Strike dice for the Panzer III is 7. Ignore that one. So looking at 5s and 6s. So that's 3 hits on the T-34. The T-34's armour is 6. So he needs to save at least one of these. and he's saved 2 of them, so that's 1 net hit. And let's just see what happens to the T-34. It's a 2. Temporarily immobilised. He's not moving anyway, he's dug in. So 0 effect on the T-34 there, apart from taking a point of shock and losing an action next turn. So at least we shocked it. His second shot now, it was with a +2, so now that disappears because it's a snapshot. So that's a 7, so that is also a hit. So same again, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 strike dice, that's 2 hits, and the T-34 is saving with 6 dice. He has saved those, so that's 0 net hits. Roll the dice. 3. The AFV must halt and engage the fire in a firefight on its next activation, so it's got to fire back at this guy. And his final shot, again at that T-34, just will not move it. Again, this is a 7. No, this is the 5 or above. So it's hit. It's fine hitting them, it's just destroying these things. So we have caused 1 hit. T-34 saving on his 5s and 6s. 1 6, so it saved it. And on a 3, again he must engage and engage the firer on the next turn. So it's caused 1 shock, caused a bit of shock on the anti-tank rifles up here. Not great, not really covering themselves in glory there. Up next we've got the German 3rd platoon, which is all gathered around here. Thankfully they were actually able to get pretty much everything they could into this building, so they're just going to absolutely lay down a hell of a fire on these guys in the top. These ones are just in close range, these guys are just within 18 inch. So what we've got is 2 MMGs, 1, 2, 3, 4 sections. We've also got a mortar as well, so we're just going to absolutely pummel the goddamn crap out of this building to try to reduce these. I think there's only 8 Soviets in there, but they're really holding this side up at this point. The idea is try to take out as many as possible here, and then send in the flamethrowers from the engineers on the other side to clear out what's left. So let's have a go at this. So I'll start with the first unit here. It's a -1 because they're they've got a 1 shock, so that's down to 8. Firing at close range in poor, that's 2 hits. I mean, this is not the greatest for firing at, but that's a kill at least. That's 1 down so far, several to go. We've got another section firing at the same. They haven't got any shock this time, so that's 8, that's 11. 11 is 2 hits, and that's a kill and a shock. I'll put the shock up there, put the kill on the on the MMG, because they're also close together. See if their platoon leader is one of the killed. So I really need to reduce this department store at this point. 3, no, he's not been killed, he needed a 1. So our second section over here is firing as well, so that's an 8. That's another 2 hits. Looking for 5s and 6s, that's nothing. Our final section, oh sorry, they were firing actually the next range band, so that would just been a 1, so no hits anyway, so I'm just going to take it as that. And the final one is the headquarters section, that's a 10, that's 1 hit. See what that does. That's a 5, so that's another kill. Gradually whittling them down at least. Let's just see if that was a commander. Nope. They're down to 2. 3 figures in that unit now, with a shock of 2. We still have the 2 MMGs. These are now firing at the normal range. So that's 10, 16. That's a good shot. That's 3 hits and a pin. Let's see what that does. It's 2 kills. So I'll take out the MMG because I wouldn't be able to fire anyway. So that's the 2 kills. That was a very good shot from the MMG down there, and we said that was a pin as well. So they're taking some hits here, and the other MMG is an 8. So that's 2 hits. Another shock. So they're now on 3 shock. They've got 3 figures in there. They've actually used all their cards already this turn, so they're not going to be able to recover from that this turn. So the 80cm mortar really should be off table, but I'm having it on table, so I'm going to use it as a direct fire weapon. It is 2d6 because it's 80mm, so it's 3d6. 2 ones are going to do nothing. So that's an 8 on the fire table. So close range in poor, so that's 2 more hits. Slight change of the rules there. So another shock and another kill. That means that their shock now exceeds their the amount of figures in there, so that doubles it. So they are now broken. So they will retreat, and if they don't recover, well, let's see if one of those was the commander actually, a 1. Nope. So we've actually shifted them finally out of that building. So they now fall back as a broken unit, 12 inches. So good work there from the German platoon. So on our tea break again, just give you another sit rep. So we've had a lot of anti-tank rifle fire from that building against the tanks, which has kind of halted them a little bit. They've all taken a lot of shock now. They need to sort themselves out. However, the men of the match this turn has been this platoon, which has basically wiped out the Unimag building defenders. They are now running in fear back here. Didn't have a chance to get any of these guys forward, the engineers and what have you, in these buildings, but that's probably going to happen next turn. Over on this flank, I've just sorted out the firing of all the units that can fire on a tea break. Anybody within 9 inches of a spotted enemy can fire, so that was these guys in the buildings. They fired across here, caused quite a lot of damage on this little unit. In here, we've also pretty much taken out the MMG, that was from the Stug, and the SIG-33 has now at least destroyed 1 section of the factory militia. What I really need to do is get these fresh units that are in this little town hall building out and fighting to actually reduce the rest of these guys here, and then we can start pushing on, because this area is causing a real obstacle on the left flank for the Germans. But next turn should see a lot more movement, because there's nobody over there now to stop these Germans pushing forward, and the engineers and things. So hopefully this is going to be the next big stop line, I would think. There's still quite a lot to be revealed over here, and we've still got this anti-tank gun over here pointing out, looking down that street, so I've got to get rid of that as well. So we just pulled out the big man number 1 guy, and he's the fella down here. He's able to actually get this group up here, who should no longer be pinned because that will have gone, to fire. We've also, in the bottom of this building, should have another section down there. He's not going to reduce their shock just yet. And we've also got an MMG out the front. He's level 3, so he can activate all 3 of these, and these are just going to absolutely pummel the crap out of whatever is in front of them. So we've got up here, we've got the factory militia. So first unit is using all of its 3 actions, so firing at an effective range with a -1, so that's 10. In poor conditions, that's 1 hit. That's on the factory militia MMG. That's a shock on that, so that's a reasonable start already. So I really need to actually reduce the defence in this area. It's real bugbear. So we also have the other guys down the bottom. They've got a -2 because they've got 2 shock. So they're firing at the MMG as well. So that's a 5. That's a miss, nothing. And then finally, I've got the MMG at the bottom. That's going to be firing at normal range. Again, firing at their MMG. So that's 8, 11. Normal range, so that's 2 hits. So that's a kill and another shock. So that's at least done some damage on that MMG. Exactly what we needed really at this point. If I can get rid of these factory militia in here, I can start actually again pushing forward with these units and getting them out into this flank up here. Now we've got this second platoon, Axis platoon firing, so there's literally only the headquarters section and one section left, a decimated section. There's 5 men in that one, so they're only getting 2 actions, but they're going to shoot at the rifle units in here. So that's an 8. They don't have any shock, surprisingly, at this point. So an 8, close range. So that's 2 hits. 1 extra shock on them. So that's 5. So they're currently pinned, so I'm going to fire with the headquarters unit. Again, they're down to 2 dice. So that's 5. That's 1 hit. So they either need to give them a shock or a kill here. Shock. That's good enough. So they have lost their bottle. So that means they are now retreating 18 inches. Again, if they don't recover by the next tea break, they're off. So that has finally shifted those Soviets out of that building. There's one more in there. I guess he must have lost his bottle at this point. I'm going to give him a, because he's on 1 shock as well, so he's fallen back 10, 11. So they have, it should have happened last turn, but never mind. I forgot about it, but he's out now. So that's that building cleared. Still got this building to clear here, but we do have a lot of fresh troops coming up. If I can get this platoon to move, I've got a couple of units that can push forward and lay down some more fire. We've also still got the Stugs as well, so they can turn their fire onto this as well. It's starting to look up a little bit on this side now, after that. Excellent. It's time for the Dugin T-34 to fire, and it had to return fire at one of these Panzer IIIs. I can't exactly remember which one, but this one will do. We're starting on a first shot in the open, so we start with a 5 because it's an 18 inch. The fire is under fire. No, it's not this turn actually. The target isn't moving. The -1 for the shock, so the -1 on the shock and the thing. Gun sight's not damaged, and this is it. So we're starting on a 5. That takes it up to down to a 4. So 5, that's a hit. Strike dice is 7 against an armour of 4 Panzer IVs. Good chance here. Let's have a look. So that's 3 hits. Let's do the 4 saves. 1 save, so that's 2 net hits. A 5 on 2 net hits. Main gun out of action for the remainder of this game. Fantastic. So I'll probably just withdraw that. It's got no use. His second shot, it was a 4. Now it's going to go up to a 6 because it's not an aimed shot. So that's a hit. Let's see how bad that does. So that's 4 hits. Oh dear, that's not going to look good for that Panzer IV. And let's see. Has to save several of these. Oh, it's saved 3 of them. So that's 1 hit. God, that was close. And the AFE. Must halt and engage the fire in next activation. Can't do because he hasn't got a gun. And he's firing his final shot at the same tank. So that's a hit. It's 4, 6, 7. 7 strikes, so that's 2 hits. German save. Saves 1, and it's a 6, no effect. So he's taken out the gun on that tank, but not a great deal else. The 13th Panzer Division engineers are now pushing far further forward. They're using this tram as a cover, but because they've actually managed to get as far forward as possible at this point, they are now able to reveal this line of Soviet tabs here. So we'll have a look at what these are. I suspect this is probably going to be our next big Soviet stop line. This is going to be a difficult one to get through because there's a lot of stuff here. There's what, there's six tokens, so let's just see what we've got. First one, so 308th headquarters. I'll just leave that there. So that's actually quite a small unit, but it's still considerable. We've got a submachine gun unit there from the 650th. Here we have a dummy, so that's good. This final one here, sorry, it's a T-34. That's where he's been hiding. So that's a T-34 that can move. It's not dug in. So yet again, another armoured vehicle to deal with. Another dummy, fantastic. And the final one is another battalion of the 650th. These are the reserves. So we've got more infantry here, more infantry in here, and then a tank behind. So I'll get those set up. As I said, this is going to be a bloody difficult stop line, but we've got the 13th Panzer engineers coming in. They're armed with flamethrowers. Fingers crossed this shouldn't be too much of a stretch for them to get through. Let's just see what happens. Looks like I was right about this being the next stop line. So we've got the T-34. We've also got this platoon of infantry swarming about in these factories here as well. So that is going to be another hard nut to crack. But we do have, as I say, the tanks and the Stugs still operational, and they're just about, hopefully just about to push past that line there anyway. And we've also got the engineers with flamethrowers moving down, and still quite a lot of support behind. So if I can get that lot moved down in this turn, fingers crossed we might be able to get through these. So far this turn the Germans have been able to push forward their 3rd platoon here. They managed to get that a little bit further forward by using their big man to order the 3 sections to get out. They're in the open, but I think at this point we really need to get across this open ground and get into some cover on the other side and really close down what we're doing with the Soviets. So I'll push those forward. The Marders have come into action now, so this one here is going to start taking fire at the, taking aim, should I say, not fire at from, but taking aim at the T-34. See if we can actually get rid of that, because again that's still quite a threat at this point. Even if I can just get its shock up, then that's going to be enough to make the crew abandon it. So with a Marder, we've got the weapon strike of 9, which is pretty good. That's going to be against a T-34's armour of 6. So let's work out, we're firing our first shot. He's not under fire, it's not moving, he's got no shock on the Marder. It's in the open at 18 inches, so that's 5 anyway. It's a low profile, so that takes it to a 6, but it's a +2 for the aim shot, so the first one is always aimed, so that's a 4 or above. So that's a veritable hit. And as I said, the Marder has a strike dice of 9. That's a good thing about these German anti-tank SP guns. So let's see what we can do with that. Okay, that's a lot of hits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hits. Now the Soviets T-34 has got a armour save of 6, so it's going to need to save all 6 of those to do the least damage. It has saved 4, so that's 2 hits from the Marder. So that has given us 2 points of shock, lose 2 actions, and also a 2. He's permanently immobilised for the remainder of this game because he's dug in anyway. So he's now on 3 points of shock. Any more shock on it will make the crew abandon. So let's fire again. This time we were on a 4. We lose that bonus, so now it's a 6 or above, so his second shot, that's a miss. The third shot from the Marder is a hit. So again, strike dice of 9. See what we can do. There's only 2 hits there. I think we may have passed our best with this Marder at this point. Let's see how many the T-34 survives. 2. But let's see, we roll 1 point. If I roll a 1 or a 2, then takes 1 more shock and the crew are probably going to abandon. No, 6, no effect. So that was not great, not terrible. I'll just sort out that shock on the T-34. Just had a quick check up. The T-34 has got a morale value of 3. It's reached that with the Marder firing at it. It's any vehicle that is immobilised is abandoned if the morale is equal to its shock. So it is now abandoned. So at least the Marder has taken that T-34 out, reduced that the threat in this corner. So now we can carry on pushing on. In more good news, the second Marder moved forward, then took a fire shot at the anti-tank rifles in this building and the anti-tank rifle in this building as well, caused enough kills on them to actually make them withdraw. So they're now broken and they're falling back as well. So again, another pretty good victory in this corner. Right, time for the Stugs to step up. So the SIG-33 is going to blat away at the factory militia, and the other Stug is also going to do the same thing. So let's see, the SIG, he's got 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, close range with poor. That's 4 hits and a pin. That's against the factory militia on the base, so they're pinned, and they will take 2 kills and 2 shock. So that means they have also lost their battle. They're not falling back as far, so they're only falling back 10 inch. And the Stug, 2d6, missing on a 1, so that's 7, firing against the MMG, 2 hits. That's another unit fleeing, so they're falling back 9 inch. Excellent. The Stugs have finally done the work that they should have done a long time ago. The Soviet SMG squad is now going to fire at the engineers as they're coming through the open ground. They're not within 9 inch. I'm going to call it a poor shot. They're firing through the tram and barricade. They're not. If they were within 9 inches, they would have got an extra dice because they've got lots of SMGs. But let's just see what happens. That's 8. That's 1 hit. Let's see what that does. That's a kill. This allied big man is now in a position to be able to get these last section of the factory militia to be able to fire down onto the advancing engineers. I'm going to give that a poor shot. It's over 9 inches, so let's have a look. Ooh, that's not good. 4, and a poor shot is a 0. So no hits anyway, but they're still fighting in that factory just. So now we've got another tea break. So let's just have a look at what's happening on the table. This one's a relatively quiet turn because a lot of the Soviets disappeared off. So the Stugs were able to clear out this factory. of the factory militia. These are still broken, as are these units here at the back, so they're going to come off in a second. We've got the German engineers pushing forward in the centre. However, there is a lot of Soviet soldiers in these buildings. Just wait till you get into the light. So that's going to prove pretty tough. But over on the Soviet left flank, the T-34 has been abandoned. So the the German panzers have managed to push forward into the park, and we've also got most of the infantry now pushing forward as well to get into positions in the Unimag building. So that's going to be pretty useful for them, especially for the medium machine guns. And we've got the shattered remnants of the 2nd platoon stuck in there. They've just tried to gather themselves forward. And finally, I've withdrawn the tank that's got a broken gun turret on it. So this is how it's looking at the moment. The German line is about halfway across the table at this point. There's still a lot of Soviet units to yet be revealed. So I know a lot of these are going to be dummies, but I know there's at least another company kicking around in here somewhere. So that's going to be another big, hard push. But there we are for the moment. That's how it stands. So straight in, we've got the Panzer IVs. They push forward in the centre. They're now threatening that T-34 that's sitting in the rubble over here. So these two guys are now going to take a shot at the T-34. The 3rd Panzer IV is struggling to keep pace with them because it's still shocked. I need to get a unit over there to reduce their shock. So we have fire is not under fire, target is not moving, there's no shock on the firer, the gun sight is not damaged, it's low profile or small, and I don't think there's any other negative factors. We add 2, it's the first shot is the aim shot. They haven't already hit a static target, fire is not higher than the target, a big man's not directing the fire, so it's +2 so far. I'm going to go with this being up to 18 inches and view obscured, so we need a 6, but it's a +2 for the first shot, so a 4 will do. That is a hit. So the strike dice of the long barreled is an 8 against the armour of 6 of the T-34. So let's see what we can do with that. So we roll the dice. That's a lot of hits on the strike dice. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the armour of the T-34 is 6. So that's 5 dice. It's got to save a few of these. It's saved 2, but 3 or more hits is a destroyed. So that has taken out our T-34 straight away. Fantastic. Really good job there. That's exactly what we need. A proper little Michael Wittmann. So that means that gun has another shot, a single shot it can fire. And it's going to fire against the anti-tank gun that's up in the window. It's moved once, so that gets a -2, and we are firing 2d6 on a -2. So that's 6. 1 is a miss anyway, so it's gone over the top. The 2nd Panzer IV has also moved, but it is going to fire at the anti-tank gun in the window, so that is again a -2 because it moved, but it's firing 2 shots. The first one is 4, firing close range in poor. That's 1 hit. Let's see what happens. That's a shock. His second shot, again another -2 on this, firing at the same thing. That's much better, that's an 8. That's 2 hits. He already has a shock. So let's have a look. That's a kill and a shock. That's almost put the anti-tank gun out of commission straight away. Well, actually they've lost their bottle because there's only 2 crew left on that. So that means that they will abandon that gun. So that's another major threat gone. That's a pretty good turn, that, for the Germans. And I didn't do it a second ago, but because the Panzer IVs have moved forward so far here, they're able to actually expose both of these, this card and this card. So let's have a look what we've got. This is a dummy, brilliant. And this one is a dummy, fantastic. So now we've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards left to reveal. There's still going to be a lot of soldiers in there, but it's looking less and less threatening now. With the Marders now moving forward as well, we're able to reveal what's in this factory, so let's have a quick look. Oh, it's another dummy. Wow. So far, this is looking pretty good. If you have a quick look over here, you can see that there's only these 3 markers left now. So there's not a great deal left on the table. We've kind of got this massive block of troops in the centre here with the in that factory. But apart from that, these flanks are pretty clear. So that's going to be very good for me, just to be able to actually push through and attack them from the flank. I'm feeling a lot more positive about this now. That was a very short turn. The T-break has been pulled, so nobody's been able to fire because they're all over 9 inches away from each other. But the Germans have managed to push forward slightly more here. They've got their armour up, and as I say, the best thing that happened this turn so far is destroying the anti-tank gun and that T-34. Apart from that, nothing else to report on. So let's crack on with our next turn. Flame on! The German engineers have managed to get up close to this building now, behind this tram barricade, and they are using their flamethrower to attack the units here. So that's going to be 5 dice. No cover, doubles all of the shock. Let's see what we do. Blimey, 18, 19, 20, 22 in total. 16 hits, and they're instantly suppressed. So let's see what those 16 hits do. How many got there? 5. So let's see what this does. Remember, all shock is doubled. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 killed. Get rid of the no effects. 7 kills, 4 shock. Oh god, so that's an entire section is wiped out. And I'm going to put the 4 shock onto the MMG that's in there, which then will break that unit. So they will quickly retreat. They're falling back with 4 shock. They're falling back 12 inches. That's the power of the engineers right there. That's why they're the elites. And next, they have 1 shot of fire, and they're going to fire up at the anti-tank rifle up there. That's a 5. Firing at close range, poor. That's 1 hit. And that causes a kill on the anti-tank rifle as well. That is a really good result. So wiped out a section, forced a medium machine gun into retreat, and also taken a hit on an anti-tank rifle. And then we moved another engineer unit forward. These are now going to blast into this building and give them some umpty with their flamethrower. So that's 5 dice again. Same as, double all shock, no cover, so that's 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16. Not as good as before, but still a good result. 13 hits and a suppression. So let's do those 13 hits. 5, 10. This is spread amongst 2 units that are in there. So kills Not as great a kill as before, but still a good number. Let's get rid of the non-shock. So we've got 3 kills and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 shock. We double that because it's a flamethrower. So we'll just get those kills on. And then their final action will be to fire a rifle. 1, that's not going to do anything. But still, that's really shocked them, and that has really damaged that unit there. So this might be a lot easier again. I keep saying it, but this might be a bit of an easier task to get through at this point. That was another short turn. Just pull the T-brake again. But as I say, as you've just seen, thankfully got these 2 engineer sections up close. Both of them did some massive damage here to the Soviets in these buildings. On the T-brake, the SMG squad over here were able to fire and just cause 1 shock on the engineers here. Nothing else has happened. There's been a couple of units getting into the Unimag building, but again, quite a quick turn, that one. But it means that this Soviet medium machine gun down here in the shadows, I'm sorry, is off the table because they're panicking and running. And that's where we're at the moment. In this turn, we were able to shift forward the platoon here. They're now moving forward to come and threaten what remains of the factory militia and these observers. I don't think they're going to last very long. But this means that this card is now in spotting range. So let's see what it is. Oh, it's the Quad AA medium machine gun. So that's an anti-aircraft medium machine gun. So I'll get that set up. SIG-33 is up and running again, so it's going to fire at the Soviet defenders here, the remains of the lads. It's got a -4 on its dice roll because it's moved twice. So probably not great, but let's have a look. So that's 9, 10. 10 on the hits, it's 2 hits. Might do something. That's 2 shock. The engineer platoon commander has now pushed forward one of the sections here, which is pretty badly damaged. They've only got 2 actions. Their first action was to move to the window. Second action, surprisingly enough, is to flame these SMG guys. He's also reduced some of the shock on the other platoon over here, the other section here as well. So let's see what happens with this flamethrower. And we know we like flamethrowers. So that's 4, 8, 13. Close range, no, that's 11 hits with suppression. I've got 5, 10, 11 dice. This is against a unit of 6 men. They only need to score half of these to get them out. And we've got 1, 2, 3 are killed with 1, 2, 4 shock. Turns into 8 because it's a flamethrower. So that kills them. The rest of them are running. They also run through the headquarters staff there. And let me just put their shock on so we know what we're doing. And the headquarters staff will suffer 1 shock for 2 inch that these have to retreat, and these will retreat 10, 16, so that gives them 8 shock as well. They're running back 16 inch, so they're all the way over there, and they have 8 shock, which is exactly the amount of them. So I'm going to say they have also lost their bottle as well. No, it's more than double, so they're okay. They're okay for now. So we've got these 2 Marders forward now. They're through the park, and they have got the Soviet headquarters, or the 308th Rifle Division headquarters in their sights. They've already got 8 shock, so they're just going to lay down fire on them. They both move 2, so they're going to -4 off their dice. Any ones are misses. So the first one, that's 2 1s, so that's a miss. Second one, that's a miss anyway because of the 1. So not as effective as I was hoping, but at least they're now threatening the flanks of the Soviet headquarters. Tea break time again, and I fired with everything that was able to shoot, that hadn't activated, and the German engineer flamethrowers were able to burn out these guys, but they also took some hits themselves. So they destroyed the rest of the anti-tank gun crew, individual. They've also destroyed half of the infantry in here as well, forced them into retreat. So again, things are looking pretty good. I was concerned about the amount of infantry in here, but they've soon cleared it out. Okay, we're on to the 2 Marders again. They're straight back in action, and they're firing at this headquarters over here. So the first shot from the first guy, no minuses this time. That's an 8. An 8 at short range in poor is 2 hits. So that's a kill. Put a kill tab down. Let me just see if their big guys are the ones that have been killed. The 1, and he has. Nope. Okay, second shot from the same Marder. That's a 6. So that's 1 hit. And that's nothing. And his third and final shot is another 6, but that's a 1, so that's a miss. So the second Marder firing he's a 6. That's another 1 hit. Nothing. His second shot, 12. Good. That's 3 hits. So they are 1 kill, 1 nothing, 1 shock. Let's see if it's either of the big men. No, it's not the top one, and it's not his second in command. So shock is now 9. They've just lost another man. Let's add that up, see what we're on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 against 9, so they're okay at the moment. His final shot is 5, and that's another 1 hit. See what that does. And that's another shock. So that's now on 10. They are getting close to the edge. I don't think they're going to last this turn, to be honest, because there's a lot in the Unimag that's going to start firing at them. The German section, second section here, up in the Unimag building, they've been brought into action. They're going to fire down on the retreating headquarters. They pulled their card last time. I moved them from here, fell them back because I figured they're not just going to stand there and take fire. These guys are going to fire across at them. I'm doing it as an okay shot because of the buildings in between. Each of these only have 2 actions anyway, so there's only 2 sections. They've moved 1 action to move to the windows, 1 action to fire. So the first one, a 4 on an okay shot, is 2 hits. Let's see what happens. So that's a kill and a shock. And that takes them up to 11 shock. So they are now broken. So they will immediately retreat. They're dead, so they're off. So they are falling back 12 inches. So let's see where they end up. Right to the back of the table. So unfortunately that means the rest of that squad can't fire at them. Taking their 11 shock with them. And that's it. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not going to allow them to fire anymore. But that was a pretty good result. And here was yet another short tea break. Only got 3 cards pulled out there. In the firing at the tea break stage, the engineers yet again absolutely pounded the remainders of these, broke them, gave them something like 10 shock, so they were disappeared off. They've gone. The headquarters unit is also gone as well. They're just over there, but they're about to collapse and disappear. So the Soviet defences are absolutely decimated at this point. There is very little left. We've got these 3 cards remaining, I'm going to move into those. Got little bits of few things left over. We literally got the quad AA machine gun there. We've got the mortar, 50cm mortar there. There's a headquarters unit just underneath them of 3 men or something, and then you've also got the 4 men of the factory militia remaining, and these observation teams. Unless there's a really big upset, I think this game is probably the Germans at this point. But we'll see. Things can still change. Fortunes of war and all that. So now the 2 Marders have managed to move themselves so far forward that we can now reveal the last 3 of the Soviet positions. I'm not entirely sure how to end this game. I don't want it to be just destroy everything, but it might be a case of if I can get German units onto this back line, then I think the Germans are going to win because they've reached the Volga. So I think that's how we're going to play it from here on in. So let's have a look. That's the 308th Mortar Battalion. There's a few mortars. We have here a dummy, and this has to be the 650th 1st Battalion. So this is where the last block of troops are. So I'll get those set up. So it's the Stugs again. The 633 is now going to fire at the remnants of the factory militia. Rolling their 5 dice. That's 10, 18, 23. Close range and poor. That is 5 hits and a suppression. Finally, this may break them, you never know. 4 kills. 4 kills and a shock, that's enough to destroy them. I'm going to take the big man with them as well, because he will retreat. So finally, the SIG has actually done what it was supposed to do. And now we just pull the tea break card. So this turn, not a great deal has happened. I've actually removed a lot of Soviet cards from the deck because they've been destroyed. The observers were overwhelmed as this unit passed by them. The final defenders are still in place over here. Not much movement apart from some of these units getting through the woods, and the Panzer IVs now pushing a little bit further forward, getting onto the railway tracks. So the last card I just pulled was the Axis Armour 5, which is the Marders, and these 2 pushed forward right to the very end of the board. This is literally the banks of the Volga, and with this I'm saying that is the German victory. They've managed to get the units right down to the Volga. They've the Axis advance is pretty much unstoppable at this point. There's a strong point of Russians here in the centre that's left. It's not a great deal of men, but we've got a ton of German soldiers coming down here, so we've still got almost a full company here. These guys took a few hits from some of the mortars, so they got a pin and they got 3 kills from the Soviet mortars over here, which fired at them just before the end of the turn. However, in the Unimag we've still got another group of German soldiers there. We've also got below, we've still got the engineers. They're fully kitted out with their flamethrowers still. We've got headquarters up here, mortars over here, the 2 tanks, 2 Panzer IIIs. We've got still 2 remnants of 2 engineer sections, again armed with flamethrowers. They're going to make very short work of any Soviet defenders. We've got the Panzer IV there, 2 Panzer IVs there. The other one was probably about to come back into action, along with the 2 half tracks. Over on that side, on the German left flank, as you can see, there are, let me just get around there, you can see that there are another almost full company, 2 Stugs. You know, very little on this side to stop them really, as soon as they would get anywhere near these Soviets. So, all in all, I'm going to say that is a German victory. So this is how the table kind of looks at the end of it. This has been a particularly hard fight. This has taken me 2.5 days. Best part of 2.5 days to complete. But the best thing about it being, because it was a solo war game, I could leave it out. I could come back to it anytime I wanted. I mean, obviously not everybody has this, you know, same kind of setup or ability to leave things out. but I'm pretty fortunate for that, and I was able to use that. I mean, one of the things you can do while you're solo wargaming is just, you know, take a photograph of the board. If you have to put it away, then just set it up again as it was before. This has been particularly good because I had no idea what Soviet units I was facing, and the idea of splitting them down into different sections as well. So I had some of the infantry further forward, and then some of the more support weapons towards the back, and the more fragile things towards the back made a lot more of a difference, I think, and just made for a bit of a better game from my point of view. And also, you know, it was less randomised for the setup of the Soviets as well. So all in all, this has been an excellent game. I really enjoyed playing it. I hope you've enjoyed watching it. If you have done, please subscribe. There'll be more AARs coming over the next few weeks, I would assume. More solo games. Things I would have done different, just talk about that quickly. I think I probably would have, instead of going down the long axis of the board, I think I probably would have gone along the short axis of the board next time, just because of the amount of figures that are involved, and also just to give the Germans a little bit more of a chance of pushing forward, because it did take a long time to get all the way across that board. You know, it's a 6-foot board, and if you're only moving three dice worth of inches per turn, if you even get a chance to take a turn, then it takes a long time to get there. Alright, enough waffle from me. As I say, if you've enjoyed this, please subscribe. There'll be more to come. Thanks for watching.